Sometimes you just need to turn off the distractions, get to work, and find the universal truths that affect us all and that govern our universe. This is a good place to do that. Mark Foltz and Kat Hobson will try to help with that a bit by bringing fantastic guests. Let's see what's happening tonight.
Thank you. Welcome to Universal Truths with Mark Foltz. We're coming to you from WBHM-DB in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama. And Kate Hobson is turning the knob tonight. And tonight we're going to have a guest that I think you're really going to love, Jamie Mose. And we're going to talk about haunted dolls and her paranormal travels. So I'm going to start off by, again, welcoming everyone today. We just came back from a fairly long break, and I'm very glad to be here. And I know a lot of people are getting sick. I just got over getting whatever little sinus thing is going around. So my sympathies to anyone who's having a problem, and if I sound more like a Marlboro man tonight, it's just because of that. And anyone, I live in Pensacola, even though this is being projected out of Birmingham. So anytime that someone wants to meet me in person, I'm usually at Live and Let Live Metaphysical Store on 4622 Softly Field Road in Pensacola, and the owner, Sal Gandolfo, owns the store, and he's helped by Matthew Ferguson, and they can meet all of your metaphysical needs. And besides myself, there's two other readers. There's Tony Talley and Terry O'Connor, and between the three of us, we have about 100 years worth of experience, as they always say. So I'm so glad to come here and be with you. It's quite a blessing. And anyone that's listening, thank you for tuning in. I hope that we have fun. I hope you have fun. I hope we have fun. I always try to make everything fun and informative. So we're just going to have a good old time. So I'm going to welcome in our lovely guest, Jamie Mose. And I'm going to let her tell us about her and what she does. And then we're going to talk about her dolls, because I'm excited because I collect haunted dolls. And actually, I am helping her with a haunted doll right now. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And like I said, I'm just getting over whatever creeping crud is going around. So I'm going to try to keep my voice clear and loud. So I'm going to holler like I'm in the country back in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So now, Jamie, I know you're out there in the ethers. Can you hear me?
I sure do.
All right. Thank you for coming in and being with us tonight. I'm going to be so excited for us to chit-chat and have a good time. And every so often we have breaks. So you'll hear me having to do that at some point. So Jamie, I'm going to give it to you and let you talk about yourself. And then let's first kind of, after we get into it, let's get into the meat of the haunted dolls. How about that?
Sounds good.
So
all
right.
I live in Ardmore, Oklahoma, and I've been investigating for probably close to 18 years now. And I've been several places in the United States, investigating lots of different haunted places. Of course, that's kind of my hobby now. I have worked in healthcare for about 30 years. I work in physical therapy. I'm the supervisor over my clinic. And so, unfortunately, at work, I'm not able to talk a lot about my travels and stuff because in healthcare, they don't care too much to hear that kind of stuff. They're kind of stuffy that way. But I just started collecting my haunted dolls probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and it really wasn't intentional. I'll tell you how I got my first doll. I had went to a paranormal conference down in Tyler, Texas, and they were having a silent auction. And so there was this doll there, and for some reason she was calling to me. We went into a bidding war, and I told the girl that was bidding against me, I said, I don't care how much I have to pay for that doll, it's mine. And so she finally backed off, and I got the doll, and I don't know what attracted me to her, but I just loved her immediately as the first time I saw her. And so anyway, and then that kind of started it all. I've had people come to me and ask me, if they have a doll, would I want it? Or they may see a doll somewhere and say, I think it's haunted, so I bought it for you. So it's, like I said, it really wasn't an intentional thing, but now I have probably around a dozen, maybe, haunted dolls. And what I like to do is when I very, very first get them, I try to do like a spirit box session with them or something, because I definitely want to find out their real names. And so a lot of times, they will come through and they'll tell me their names. They may tell me where they came from, I'll just whatever about themselves. But another thing that I usually do is when I bring them in, we have a talk as soon as we get in the house, and I let them know, that this is a friendly home and that we are all going to be friends here. And so if anybody causes a problem, that they will have to leave. And I always promise them I will take care of you. I will not let anybody, hurt you, bother you, or whatever. But you just have to make sure that, you don't cause any trouble. And so far, we've all gotten along. Everything's been great. They don't really do a whole lot. Every once in a while I might find something or lose something, can't find it, and then, find it right where I had just looked, or, just little things like that, but nothing really major. But anyway, yeah, I've gotten into, I'm getting to where I just love the dolls more and more. So.
Yeah. Well, they're children. They really are like your children.
Yes. Yes, they sure are.
And they have to, because I have haunted dolls. I have my haunted doll collection in the store where I'm at. And, and actually today I had a little girl who was just fascinated with my effigy doll. And she wanted to hold her, but she was scared of her. So, and it's the one that it is kind of scary looking. She's 140 years old. But she was just she has the hair of the baby that it was created for, to represent for the mama back in 1880. And so it's just a baby. I mean, and people have offered me money for her. And I'm like, I can't. That's like a child to me. I would feel bad selling my baby. And but people will sit in the store and she shakes sometimes. When there's someone there she wants to be held by, she starts to move, and her eyes change. So I'm going to do a lot of experiments on her to show it. It has to be catchable, on film.
Right.
And it's so tell me about your most haunted one. What is your which one do you feel like talks the most to you?
Okay, his name is Daniel, and he is actually a Coca-Cola doll. It's a little boy, and he's on one, the old-timey crates where they put the little wheels on it and make like a scooter?
Yeah.
That's what he's on. And he's got, cute little, I don't know, like 1930s, 40s outfit and a little hat. And he's very talkative. So anytime I bring out the spirit box, he says a lot. And of course, that's how I found out his name. His name is Daniel. He's from Chicago. And he told me that he was actually a gangster and that he was disemboweled and that he does not know where his body is. Yeah, he's very talkative. He's told me a lot about himself.
Wow. And it's like, and you reach over and say, "Oh yeah, I think I'll take the Barbie now." It's like, "Oh yeah, this one is a sweetie. He was a disemboweled bootlegger. Here we go."
Yeah,
but but see, you don't know what you're going to get.
No, you sure don't.
And they do speak. The lady that I used to, a friend of mine, took care of for like 20 years. She collected dolls, and someone gave her a doll that was very angry, and she would dress it up and try and treat it well. And I would hear her talking to it, and she said, "It hates me. It hates me. I'll do everything to be nice to her, but she's vicious." And we lived in an old Victorian house, and my friend was too decrepit, really. She wouldn't go to the basement because it was quite a trip.
Uh-huh.
And she, excuse me, something happened here. She made it down to the basement with the doll, and it was having an electronic problem. Usually when you talk about these things, it causes issues. So,
yeah.
Ta-da, ta-da. But she somehow, decrepit as she was, made it to the basement with that doll. And when I moved from that house, that doll was in the house. And the friend had gone her way, I got my way, and she didn't even know where I lived. And I moved 50 minutes away, and 3 days later, in the middle of the country, real secluded. And I went out about the third day after moving, and there that doll was sitting on my back porch waiting for me.
Oh, my
goodness. And I was like, hey, oh, no. And so I fixed up. I said, here's the deal. Because I knew she didn't like me. And but she didn't know where else to go. So I found someone who was into paranormal stuff who was into it. And I just threw it pretty, and I said, I'm sending you to them. And because I really, at the time, I just couldn't handle having to sleep with one eye open. But the other dolls I have, they're gently haunted or they're nicely haunted. I'm not really interested in the really scary ones too much because there are a lot of upkeep.
Yes.
But you know, and I don't choose them unless they really do. I hear a communication with them. So when you feel drawn to them, what is, if you can remember, or how is it that you feel they're communicating to you?
Well, I'm not a sensitive or anything by any means. And that's what I always say when I go on paranormal investigations is that I'm actually the ghost repellent because a lot of times when I'm by myself, I get no activity. So someone has to be with me. And so I have, a couple of really good friends, and I know you know them, Teal Gray and Susan Hill.
Oh, yeah.
Susan and I wrote a book together, I guess about 2 years ago called Respectful Ghosthunting, Well, of course, they're both very sensitive, and so a lot of times I'll rely on them to kind of let me know about the doll and just to make sure it's not bad, because me and Susan, a lot of times we might go antiquing or something like that, and I'll tell her, I'm like, look at this doll. What do you think? You know, because I'm the same way. I don't want to take anything home that's bad, because we've all got a good thing going here, and I don't want to bring in something that's disruptive, and I definitely don't want to bring in something that's going to try to harm me or anything. But that's usually what I do, is I just hold them and then just kind of see, and I'll, you know, kind of get a feeling like I love them, you know, I want them, and then that's when I'll go ahead and bring them home. And so, but my dad actually, surprisingly, because at first when I started getting into ghost hunting, they weren't real happy. My parents were not real happy with it, you know, because they were just scared for me. But so it was very surprising to me. He had went to a flea market somewhere, and he said he passed by and there was this really, really old doll, and I have yet to find out actually who this doll is fashioned after or where it came from or anything. But I mean, I don't know, he's very, very old. But my dad said he saw it and he thought about me, and he was like, nah, I better not. But then the man said, hey, he saw him looking at it, and he said, are you interested in that doll? And my dad said, well, my daughter collects dolls. And that man said, you can have him for $1. I don't want it. And so my dad was like, okay. So he got the doll, and so he brought it to me. But he's been a good doll. He's not done anything bad. The only thing is I had a hard time finding out his name. He would kind of answer things here and there, but I never could get his name. And so I thought he was a Charlie McCarthy doll, but I have looked at all the Charlie McCarthy dolls, and because he's more like a ventriloquist doll. And I've looked at all of them, and none of them look like him. And then, oh goodness, I just lost the name. There's another name of a ventriloquist doll. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
And when I was young, for some reason they gave all the guys, when we were about 10, everybody got like the Danny O'Day and Charlie McCarthy.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Well, so I asked him if that was his name, and he said no. And so I was kind of getting a little frustrated with him because he never would give me his name. And so finally, just kind of joking, I said, okay, well then I'm going to call you Howdy Doody. And he goes, no. I said, well then tell me your name. And he said, Morris. So that's how I finally found out what his name was. So his spirit name is Morris, but again, I can't find this doll anywhere. I've looked at all antique dolls, you know, and researched him, and I cannot find out who he's fashioned after. So
I remember some kind of puppet like that was called Mortimer. Mortimer. And I want to say Morris was in the name somewhere. It was like Mortimer Morris or Morris Mortimer.
Really? So you are the first one that's ever told me that name.
But I think that I remember the name Mortimer. For some reason, that comes to like ding, ding, ding. You'll have to send me a picture of them. I'll look at them and see. Because they're really very popular, and then some of them are commonly made, and then there's some that are not, you know, that are real collector's items, or just so sometimes they were personally made for the individual, depending upon what they are.
Yeah, I need to take a picture of him then and send it to you, because I've asked different people, and like I said, I've researched all over the internet, and I cannot find any doll that looks like him.
Well, you are talking to the weirdo on top. That probably will help you figure it out. But I just remember they had several characters because it was just so popular. And in a minute we'll have to break, but
okay.
And then we'll go into we'll still keep talking until it's about time to do that. But there were a whole little line of them, and I'm not quite sure why they gave me the ventriloquist doll when they did. I have one, but I have collected female ventriloquist dolls that were for little girls. And I just have one that I've dolled up that, I've made her really freaky looking, but it was a Raggedy Ann ventriloquist doll. And it's spooky on its damn own. She is something else. But when I've dolled her up and put these big eyes on her, everyone's scared of her. So I'm going to use her in my cooking show. But I'll tell you what, we're going to take a break, but we'll be back after a short break, and we will get back into haunted dolls here on Universal Truth. So we'll see you back here in just a minute.
Warning, the following message does not necessarily reflect the views of WBHM-DB or its hosts, guests, listeners, or of any functioning adult in general. In fact, Frank should probably seek professional help. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi there, Frank Lee here. I thought that I would spend a few moments telling you about the positivity from the network here. The overall message of para-unity and happiness, and how everyone here wants to get along with everyone out there, and how everything is just wonderful. Wait, Cat's not looking. Okay, I've got something to really tell you. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what's really going on. Honestly, all that being nice and positive crap was kind of hurting my soul, as dark as it is. So, what's really happening? Well, you see it all the time. Everybody and their brother out there has a paranormal team because they watched a couple of episodes of Ghost Hunters or some crap like that. So they go and they spend half their mortgage payment on tools and things that light up that they don't understand. And then the next logical step after buying matching black t-shirts and posing like 90s rappers for their Facebook page is to, of course, have their own podcast. Well, you know what? You're not going to find that crap here. What we have here at WBHM Digital Broadcasting is the best host, the best guest, bringing you real information. All of the hosts here on this network know their stuff. They are the people who have been out there doing the work, doing actual research. And no, by research, I don't mean binge watching some kind of cheesy TV show on Netflix. I mean reading books. I mean out in the field doing the legwork. And who are they interviewing on their shows? They're bringing you the people they have learned from. They're bringing you the best in the field, covering all kinds of topics from UFOs and aliens to Bigfoot to cryptozoology to ghosts to anything you can think of a bit strange and unexplained. It is here, and you're going to get the best information here. So stay tuned to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Don't go anywhere. Speaking of going somewhere, I've got to go before my mic gets cut. We'll see you there on WBHM-DB.
Welcome back to Universal Truth. We're WBHM-DB in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama, and this is Mark Folks talking to you. And I am talking to Jamie Mose, and we're talking haunted dolls. And hi there, Jamie.
Hello.
And we were just talking, we'll continue our conversation about ventriloquist dolls. And we were just talking, because I've gotten several ventriloquist dolls lately, but they're ones that were marketed for little girls. Now, when I was little, they were marketed mostly to boys. And like I said, every friend I knew that was my age, we all got a Danny O'Day, or several of my friends did. And I knew there were other ones out there. I just didn't know what kind. So a couple of years ago, I started looking at those, and then I found ones that were made for little girls at the same time. And there's one or two of them, they kind of scare me, which is the Raggedy Ann one. It's not an Annabelle, but there's an actual ventriloquist doll made of the Raggedy Ann, and her head, it's this really strange bulbous head with a little itty bitty mouth, and she's scary looking. So I thought, good, I'll get her. So I took her, and I've given her great big bulging eyes and black hair, and all sorts of. She's fantastic, but she is scary as the day is long. She's not haunted, but she looks haunted. But I'm going to use her as a prop. And then there was the little other doll that I liked called Tracy Talk. And I've taken one of those and made it, jacked it up, and she's pretty scary as well. She scared my partner, and so I had to put her away. But one time I had her sitting on my sideboard, and I'd forgotten she was there, and I was just sitting, and I felt like somebody was watching me. I turned around and saw her, and I went, oh, that's good. Yeah, but you're going out of the room, So now you can talk to me about what you've got. So you've got, we were talking about different kinds of ventriloquist dolls. And so, there is, how hard they are to find, except online you can find them. They're getting pricier. But just to find them in the antique stores, they're not so much. And after a movie called Dead Silence, there's a lot of them out there. And they're really, honestly, scary looking. But in the movie itself, the ventriloquist doll is like the belly talkers, the oracles, that they were actually coming from the ancient art of channeling. And which is, then takes them off of the thing of just being a regular doll. So, but I think they're kind of spooky. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like I was telling you earlier, I've been looking for some, in the antique stores around here. And yeah, I may have seen two, and yes, they were very expensive. But I really hadn't thought about looking online. But the only thing about buying them online is, like I said, I like to hold them just to make sure, that I think we're compatible, I guess you could say, because I don't really want to bring one in, that's got something really bad attached to it. But it's so funny though, like you said, it's, mine are all original. I've not really, done anything to dress them up or anything, but it's so funny though, when people come to my house, because I have them all in nice, little showcase things, and to keep them dust free and all that. And I tell them that I'm going to take care of you. I want to make sure you don't get dirty, and all these things. But anyway, but it's so funny because I have them all lined up in my living room, and so people that don't know me, like I may have to have some kind of a worker or something come in, and it's so funny. I had some furniture delivered. I don't know, probably about 6-7 months ago. And the two guys that walked in, they're just bebopping in like they're, cocks of the walk until they see those dolls, and you should have seen their eyes. They were like, and then they kind of looked at each other like, oh, crap, what did we walk into? But I didn't say anything. I just let them do their thing. But, yeah, I could tell it went all over them. And then another guy came in, and he was actually working on my internet because my internet had went down one time. And he did the same thing. He looked at it like, oh, my God. And then, but he finally asked, and he goes, what is up with that doll? And he pointed to the ventriloquist doll that's named Morris. And he goes, that doll has been staring me down this whole time I've been in here. I said, well, they're haunted. And he goes, I knew it. But, yeah, it's so funny, though, to see people's faces, because I really don't think to warn them and say, just so you know, I collect dolls, but I guess I really should maybe put a sign on my door or something. Don't get scared when you walk in. But
Well, sometimes there's something to be, because, we have to look at the history of dolls. Dolls were not made at first for us to play with. They were made to be vessels.
Mm-hmm.
And people would do ritual and use them as vessels. And I've heard in some cultures they would do, after ceremony, then they would give the dolls to their children. But dolls weren't just necessarily started out to be playthings. And because of the way our system is set up, which is our neurons and the energy going to your hands and the way that we deal with PSI energy, when you're dealing with a doll, then you're, a child who is very open or, is focusing on the doll, they just can embed the doll with energy and sometimes with consciousness. And we do that with other things, so, or even like the effigy doll I have, it was given to the mother. The mother kept it for years, put it in the cradle that her baby, it had her baby's hair on it. So she would just keep it in the cradle and kept it as a baby. And every time she held it, she embedded it with information. And because we can put a little bit of our consciousness into other inanimate things. Because right now there is an experiment going on called transferring of self. And they believe that they can prove you can transfer some of your essence or your spirit into inanimate parts. Or they're experimenting with like people with cut off hands because you get phantom pains and things like that. But they're finding out that you can transfer yourself, your consciousness, into another object. So they're working on that. And the thing with dolls is we can do the same thing. We're transferring a consciousness. And if it gets enough consciousness in it, then it can think for itself how to eat, how to get energy, how to scare to get somebody to put out thermal heat. And most of them are not scary. A lot of them are just regular, they seem to be benign. It's just very small amounts that are scary or intense. Because the doll I have, I've had people sit down and the doll is looking at them. Her eyes are dilating and they're glass and they're not supposed to do that. And, but she just has so much life. And we do that. And it can happen. And it can happen even with Barbies. I have a haunted Barbie from the 60s. But they represent us. So it's very easy for spirits and consciousness to occur in vessels that represent people. And the dolls actually do see out of their eyes. There's, there's two of my very favorite shows on YouTube. Nuke's Top 5 and Slapped Ham will have videos, haunted things, haunted, really scary stuff. And there's one of them, I watched this guy got a very haunted doll. When he records it, it screams. On the recording, it doesn't make a sound while you're looking at it. So he took and puts down like baby powder, puts it in the middle of it, and you'll see it it sits up and looks at the camera.
Wow.
And if you record it, it makes terrible noises. And then I've seen one that it was I can't remember what it's called, but in the 70s, it was a doll. You would turn its arm and its eyes the eyes would close, open, and it'd have a different expression. Its mouth would move. And so it had about 20 expressions. And they have one that it's broken. So it shouldn't be able to change expression. And then they put a camera on it, and her eyes will close, and it'll look at the camera, or it'll open and do something else. So it's looking through the eyes of the doll.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, I think they're fascinating. And I actually, when we first were chit-chatting, you said because I was telling about my wax doll, and you would like to be able to find one.
Mhm.
And so what I do is when I'm looking for something, I magnetize it to me. And so I was looking for a particular one for your collection.
Mhm.
And it just so happens that one came across my path. And you can tell what you think about when you saw it, because I made sure it was something you felt like you would connect with.
Oh,
But,
yes.
So I'll let you tell what you think.
As soon as I saw her, I was like, I love her.
Yes.
Yeah, because I have been wanting one for so long, and I've not ever seen one for sale. I've seen them, that people own them and they don't want to sell them. But, yeah, and I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you doing that for me, because it means so much to me that you did that. And I'm so excited to see her.
Well, it's something I'm enjoying because I found, it came from an unusual source, and she's probably from the 1870s, 1880s. A lot of the dolls I get drawn to are not the beautiful, perfect ones. It's the ones that have a lot of damage sometimes, but they're beautiful in the age and the patina and the wear that they have. And this one has such piercing blue eyes, and she has mohair curls that are hanging down. She's what they used to call a split head, which is when they started making wax dolls, they would make castings of wax. It would be a solid wax doll, and then you would have to embed the hair. Mm-hmm. And when they started making them where they were more available to a wider group of people, they made them where they were like paper mache covered in wax, or china covered in wax. And she has a hole in her head where the hair is put through that, and then it's split each side. So it's a really unusual old doll, and she's very lovely. And they're telling me I got to go to a break again. Oh, let's go to a break, and then we'll come back and talk about this doll. We have a little bit more to discuss on that. So let's tell those people out there, you sit out there and wait, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope.
That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to Universal Truths, coming to you from WBHM-DB in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama. And this is Mark Fultz, coming to you from Pensacola, Florida. And we are talking to Jamie Mose about dolls. And we were in the middle of the conversation about a doll that I have brought that came to me, that's going to her, that's haunted. And again, I'll let Jamie say when she saw it, what she thinks about it. So there you go.
Oh, yes. As soon as I saw her, I was like, I just love her. And looking at her eyes, like you were saying, her eyes are so piercing blue. I mean, they're beautiful. So I'm so excited to see her in real life and get to meet her and hopefully get to talk to her. I'm going to try, a spirit box session with her for sure, to see what I can find out about her and her history.
Oh, yeah, because she's got something to tell, because when I have connected with her energy, like I said, the name that came through was Arabella, which I thought,
yes,
that's
and
very
I think that's
interesting.
beautiful.
Yeah. And I thought, I don't think I've heard that before. So, and it's not like an Annabelle. It's not like an Annabelle, though. And I thought people would go, oh, it's because she's listening. It's like, no. But she's very pretty little blonde, blue-eyed, pink wax, 1870s, 1880s, black cover paper mache. But she's really got a personality. And once Jamie gets a hold of her and gets her dressed and gets her fixed, she's beautiful in the condition she is. And most collectors would not be interested, most doll collectors would overlook this doll because she has so much damage. But all of my favorite dolls have damage because so even though they're like with wax, they can be very crackled, very, very fragile. And but when I look at them, I go, someone loved this so much. It looks like it's been dragged down the road, but it's been loved so much that it exists to this day. And even though it's fragile. And I love things that have been dragged down the road and broken and fixed. And that's part of the energy and part of the life in it. If it's perfect, it may not have the life in it that it would in these. And as a person, I think once when I was attacked years ago, and I was, crushed, basically, and came back out of it, I just was fascinated with broken dolls. And I thought, okay, there's probably something they need to tell me on that one. But I loved them. And I don't care if there's a blemish. I don't care if there's a crack. I don't care if it's something that a real collector would look at and go, oh, it's not, So when you look at dolls, there are so many dolls out there that are available that are not perfect, but they're beautiful. And in some of them that are haunted, that's how you find the haunted ones, because they've been loved and loved and loved and then abandoned. And then you can find them because a lot of people sell them for parts, and things like that. And not every old doll is haunted, but when they are, you know it. And like I said, for me, beforehand, I send out a magnetizing kind of call to bring what I need to me. And this one came to me. And it came to me, the reason of this, too, is, of course, I don't have a lot of money. So when I get something, it has to come to me in the right range. And so, because, you know, I mean, if you try to go after an 1880s wax doll for, you know, in my range, it ain't going to happen. You know, if they're perfect, they're beautiful, they're going to be thousands of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
And so a lot of people miss, and a lot of people don't know what to do with them and overlook it. And some of the most, you can get dolls from the 1850s pretty reasonably sometimes if you're on it. But and they have a lot of wax dolls they call pumpkin heads because of the way the hairstyle they were doing. So I've learned a lot about wax dolls, but they're just amazing because since they're made of wax, they resemble us more than the China doll or the bisque doll or the tin doll or the wooden doll or the leather doll or the rag doll. Because before we had plastic, that was all the things you had to make them out of, which was, tin, wax, plastic, you know, everything but plastic. And most of them were perishable. And the wax dolls were actually pretty tough. There are little girls, people would think they melt easy, which they don't. But they are fragile, you know, to extreme cold or extreme heat. But the fact that they make it, and wax dolls just have an eeriness to them that I love. So when you get yours all together, you're going to have to send me pictures because I just think she's going to be lovely.
Yeah.
And,
well, she's going on a ride with me whenever I get her because I ran across this. It's called a doll hospital. It's in, I just lost Springtown, I believe, Texas. It's down by Houston because I'm going to be going to visit my friend in Houston. And so I'm going to take her to that hospital and I'm going to hopefully, you know, find her some clothes and maybe some shoes, whatever, to fix her back up. But, we were talking about her hair the other day and I've been thinking about it. And I don't really know if I want to give her any more hair. I mean, I like the way it looks.
Yeah.
You know, the way it is.
Pretty. It's its own thing. You know, to me, I think to me in my head, what I see is like, you know, like little flowers or something, or a little ribbon or something. But her hair is sparse, but it's very unique. But I didn't know how you would feel about the hair, you know, because it's very different. But I think it adds to her mystique.
Yeah.
And
and
been
that's
with
after
her all these years.
Yes, and that's what I thought. I really don't want to, you know, take away from her originality. So I don't think I'm going to add any more hair to her. But we'll at least get her dressed and, you know, see what else we can get for her. But yeah, that's what I always tell people, you know, because sometimes I do presentations, you know, usually in Jefferson, Texas. I'll do presentations over haunted dolls and other haunted objects and things. And that's what I always tell people about the dolls. I said, you know, a lot of spirits attach to these dolls because adults, children, everybody, when they have these dolls, they treat, like you said, they treat them like their own child. And so they love them. They carry them around. They kiss on them. Well, who wouldn't want that? And so that's why a lot of these spirits, you know, will be drawn to that. So that way they're getting that love and that attention. But you know, it's just a place for them to get that kind of attention. And then, you know, you were talking about the different kind of dolls. You know, I'm Native American. I'm Chickasaw and Choctaw, and you know, they had corn husk dolls. You know, that they made out of corn husk. I've made one before. It's not that hard, but it's just so interesting to me because as I made it, I was thinking, who came up with this? I would have never thought to take a corn husk and fold it, you know, to make it into a doll. So it's just amazing to me, you know, how the dolls have developed and over the years. And, you know, it's just crazy because I had done some research and I think they said that the oldest doll that they have found was like 4,000 years old.
Yeah.
And so like you were saying, it wasn't a toy. It was, you know, for a ceremony or something. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I just find them very interesting. But you're a lot more well versed in dolls than I am. I still would like to do a lot more research, but I'm still kind of torn because I try to travel, quite a bit, and so I do a lot of research on the places that I go to because I want to find all the haunted places or just interesting places, and so I don't know. I just feel like I just don't have enough time for everything that I want to do, but I do want to research more, more about dolls and things, and because I do need to, spiff up my little presentation that I do.
Oh yeah, well the corn dolls, which is very bizarre because I've actually just got a few months ago. I ordered a big thing of a sheet of wheat because I wanted to make corn dollies and things to put in the store. And but of course they come to us from the Indians who made them for ritual, for harvest. And so they represent, the harvest and things like that. And you make the corn dolly and the little, and the children would play with them. But it also, it represents, a good harvest. And they're actually, some of them are quite beautiful. I've seen some people have been doing that are, you're talking a couple $100. Or I saw one that was $400. I thought, what? And it it was gorgeous. And I thought but it's corn husk, and but people dye the husk and make colors and make goth ones and metaphysical ones that represent goddesses and all that. So there's kind of a market of those that have jumped from being from the original roots being embraced by other earth-based religions. And so I've been actually about to work with wheat and make some very unusual ones. But I think they're just fascinating. But yeah, in Egypt, they find dolls going way back, but they would be so different than what we consider dolls from. Right. Sometimes they're made out of rocks or metal or, but sometimes they were used in ceremonies. Like I said, some places would use them in ceremonies. Then when they were finished, they would give them to the children. And then the children would learn, what that meant and what that was for. So it was more than just a dolly. And I love to study antique dolls and stuff because, like I said, it's kind of us in miniature. And other things besides doll, I have a haunted teddy bear.
Oh, really?
Because I love it. It's real sweet. I've got to put him out. And teddy bears, now see, for me, when I was young, I was a teddy bear fanatic and stuffed animal fanatic. And I had just tons. I mean, I would bury myself under, I had these long python stuffed animals. I'd wrap them around my neck like a boa. And then I would just pile these animals all over me. I love them. And, but they too, they get the energy, the love. And then at some point, that usually stops because when the person turns to an adult, they quit putting all their attention on their toys. And so they spend a lot of time after that energy. Not all. But, not people like us. Right. But they do get to where sometimes that they fall into disuse and they get in storage, or they just don't get touched, or and the energy is still there. And I call them hungry spirits. They hunger for attention and love, and sometimes, and so it's something that we create ourselves. So now we're going to start going into, this is the second half of the show. So now we're going to go from the haunted dolls to your paranormal travels.
Okay.
and I will let you just tell us about what you do, how you do it, and everything. Now, I think we may have another break coming up. I see something being tapped to me. Let me see.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we've got a few minutes until the break. She says 6 minutes, so we got 6 minutes to cover something. So you go ahead and start telling me a little bit of stuff, and we will get that. I'll let you know when we've got to run.
Okay. Well, I'll just start out just letting you know how I even kind of got introduced into the paranormal. So it was actually, I'm not sure if you have been there, but it's called the Haunted Hill House in Gainesville, Texas. And that's where I met Teal Gray. And anyway, you know, I had kind of been interested in the paranormal, just kind of off and on, but not really serious about it. And then I don't even remember how I found out about this paranormal conference, but I go there and I have the best time of my life. I had so much fun. So, of course, I was hooked. And so then I started looking for events, or even just, you know, like I said, when I travel, just trying to find different haunted places and things. And so that's pretty much what got me started in it. And so I haven't actually been, through the whole United States, but I've been a lot of places in the United States, you know, just to do investigations. Well, I'll tell you this. My next trip is going to be, this coming month in April. I will turn 50. And so I was supposed to go to Italy, but that kind of fell apart because of COVID and all that stuff. Because I work in healthcare, so it's a mess. But anyway, so I said I wanted to go to a bucket list place on my 50th birthday. So I have scheduled to go to San Francisco, and I'm gonna go to Alcatraz. So I'm so excited to go. I'm just about to die. But I'm going to go to the USS Hornet and the Winchester Mystery House. And then I've been into California, but I've never actually, gone all the way in, like, to the coast or anything. And so anyway, so I'm going to actually drive up the coast just a little bit to go to the Redwood Forest. And I'm going to see the redwoods in real life for the first time in my life. So anyway, I'm so excited. But yes, I schedule trips anywhere I go. I research and try to find out what is haunted in that area, and there is always something. And so, and then of course I have, some buddies I travel with, again, like Susan Hill. Me and her travel together quite a bit because we're both single, no kids, that kind of thing. And then Lisa Hatman from Houston, well, a little bit south of Houston, but anyways, we like to travel together also. And so, but many, many times I'll just go by myself if I can't, find anybody to go with me. Or if I just get a wild hair, I'll just, book a flight and head somewhere I've never been and go check everything out. But gosh, I couldn't even list all the places that I've been. I've been, let me think, to Gettysburg. I've been to Waverly Hills Sanatorium, Bobby Mackey's Music World, Birdcage Theater, and Tombstone. Oh, and we stayed at the Lizzie Borden House. That was so much fun. That was so exciting. And then I've been to Missouri State Pen in Jefferson City, Missouri. Let's see. I just took a trip to Las Vegas. It was in December. And so I took a 2-day road trip by myself. And I went on up into Goldfield, Nevada, and went to the Goldfield Hotel. I went to Tonopah, Nevada, and I stayed the night in the Clown Motel. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
I've heard about it.
Yeah, so I got to stay in the Clown Motel, and I stayed in what's called the It Room, because each room has its own little clown or whatever. But I got a little bit of activity in the room, but it was just fun getting to stay there. And then, because, right next door, there's a pretty big cemetery where they buried some men that were killed in a mining accident. And so anyway, I went to the Mizpah Hotel there. Goodness. I mean, I don't know. I can't even think of all the places I've been all across Texas. I know tons of places in Texas. What's kind of funny is there are so many haunted places in Texas, but Oklahoma, there's not a whole lot, or at least that's not advertised. For some reason, Oklahomans are a lot more standoffish about it. And so they may, have history and people report hauntings, but they don't like to talk about it because I live in Ardmore, Oklahoma, and they are really bad about it downtown. A lot of history here in Ardmore. It used to be called Little Chicago because there were so many gangs and so much stuff that happened here. There's underground tunnels, where there was prostitution, bootlegging, and all that. But most of the owners, the building owners downtown, I've gone and talked to them about it, and I said, well, I heard, that things happen, or whatever, but they don't want anybody to know about it because they don't want to scare off their customers or anything like that. And I've told some of the small business people, I said, do you realize that if you were actually to advertise this, that you would get a ton of people in here willing to pay you just to sit in here overnight and investigate.
Yeah.
But for some reason, they're just not into it here. And I hate that but anyway.
Well, we're going to have to take a break, and when we come back, we will continue that thought that you have started here. So we'll be right back, and y'all just sit still, and we'll come back with spooky stories.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Speer. President Biden is ordering a record amount of oil to be released from the nation's emergency reserves. It comes as Democrats face mounting political pressure over rising gas prices. More from NPR's Asma Holland.
The president is authorizing the release of 1 million barrels of oil a day for the next 6 months. In a speech announcing the decision, the president blamed Russian President Vladimir Putin for high gas prices as sanctions on Russian oil and the war in Ukraine have disrupted global oil markets.
I'm going to continue to use every tool at my disposal to protect you from Putin's price hike. It's not time for politics.
But politics are, in fact, at stake. The president has been getting hammered over rising prices that predate Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and Democratic analysts say he needs to appear to be trying to do something to solve the problem. Asma Khalid, NPR News, the White House.
Russia is saying on Friday it expects to begin enforcing a new requirement that some foreign buyers of Russian natural gas have to pay in rubles. NPR's Alina Selyuk reports President Vladimir Putin has signed a decree saying exports will be halted if payments aren't made.
The new rules apply to so-called unfriendly countries, a list that Russia has expanded in response to Western sanctions to include the entire European Union. In televised comments to Russian officials, Putin said these foreign buyers have to open ruble accounts in Russian banks to exchange foreign currency and complete payments. If these payments aren't completed, Moscow will consider that a breach of contract. European leaders have rejected the demand for ruble payments, and earlier Italian and German leaders said Putin told them they could continue to pay in euros with an exchange done in a Russian bank. Europe has relied on Russia for more than a third of its gas imports. Alina Selyuk, NPR News.
Starting next month, U.S. citizens will be able to choose a gender marker of X on their passports. As NPR's Melissa Block reports, the Biden administration announced the policy change and others to mark transgender J of visibility.
The X gender marker on passports will be an option for non-binary, intersex, and gender non-conforming people starting on April 11th. Sasha Bookert with the LGBTQ advocacy group Lambda Legal hails the move as a huge step forward.
It's a very proud moment, too. People will be recognized for who they are on their legal documents.
Also marking this day of visibility, a group of trans kids met at the White House with the Assistant Secretary of Health, Dr. Rachel Levine, who is transgender, to discuss the impact of anti-trans laws. The Department of Health and Human Services became the first federal agency to fly the trans pride flag. Melissa Block, NPR News.
Workers at an Amazon warehouse in Bessemer, Alabama, appear to have voted for a second time to reject a union bid, though the vote was far closer than the previous one. Workers at the plant voting 993 to 875 with some challenges. You're listening to NPR News. CIA Director William Burns has been diagnosed positive for the virus that causes COVID-19. That's according to a rare public statement from the agency. Burns, who's vaccinated and boosted, is working from home with plans to return to the office after he again tests negative. Burns met with President Biden yesterday morning but was wearing a mask and was socially distancing. With less than 2 weeks to go before the first round of the French presidential election, far-right candidate Marine Le Pen is gaining ground on front-runner President Emmanuel Macron. NPR's Eleanor Beardsley reports analysts say Le Pen comes across as less extreme today, so may have a better chance of beating Macron than when she faced him in a runoff 5 years ago.
Marine Le Pen has managed to detoxify her campaign by softening her anti-Euro, anti-NATO positions. She's talking more about the economy and purchasing power. Political scientist Dominique Régnier says today Le Pen is a credible candidate, especially among the working class.
Le programme de Marine Le Pen.
If I look at her program and her style, she's a candidate of the popular right, not the far right, he says. Régnier says Le Pen has benefited from the presence of the more radical Éric Zemmour. His platform in this presidential contest is much more ideological, around French identity and a Christian Europe, he says, and those are the values of the far right. Eleanor Beardsley, NPR News, Paris.
Stocks closed sharply lower today, the downturn ending a difficult first quarter for the markets, with Russia's invasion of Ukraine and inflation pressures worrying traders. The Dow fell 550 points. The Nasdaq dropped 221 points today. I'm Jack Speer, NPR News in Washington.
There's a lot going on in the world. On It's Been a Minute, we help you make sense of the news and culture through conversation with actors, musicians, authors, and journalists. Join us every Tuesday and Friday. Listen and subscribe to It's Been a Minute from NPR.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Speer. President Biden is ordering a record amount of oil to be released from the nation's emergency reserves. It comes as Democrats face mounting political pressure over rising gas prices. More from NPR's Asma Khalid.
The president is authorizing the release of 1 million barrels of oil a day for the next 6 months. In a speech announcing the decision, the president blamed Russian President Vladimir Putin for high gas prices as sanctions on Russian oil and the war in Ukraine have disrupted global oil markets.
I'm going to continue to use every tool at my disposal to protect you from Putin's price hike. It's not time for politics.
But politics are, in fact, at stake. The president has been getting hammered over rising prices that predate Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and Democratic analysts say he needs to appear to be trying to do something to solve the problem. Asma Khalid, NPR News, the White House.
Russia is saying on Friday it expects to begin enforcing a new requirement that some foreign buyers of Russian natural gas have to pay in rubles. NPR's Alina Selyuk reports President Vladimir Putin has signed a decree saying exports will be halted if payments aren't made.
The new rules apply to so-called unfriendly countries, a list that Russia has expanded in response to Western sanctions to include the entire European Union. In televised comments to Russian officials, Putin said these foreign buyers have to open ruble accounts in Russian banks to exchange foreign currency and complete payments. If these payments aren't completed, Moscow will consider that a breach of contract. European leaders have rejected the demand for ruble payments, and earlier Italian and German leaders said Putin told them they could continue to pay in euros with an exchange done in a Russian bank. Europe has relied on Russia for more than a third of its gas imports. Alina Selyuk, NPR News.
Starting next month, U.S. citizens will be able to choose a gender marker of X on their passports. As NPR's Melissa Block reports, the Biden administration announced the policy change and others to mark transgender J of visibility.
The X gender marker on passports will be an option for non-binary, intersex, and gender non-conforming people starting on April 11th. Sasha Bookert with the LGBTQ advocacy group Lambda Legal hails the move as a huge step forward.
It's a very proud moment, too. People will be recognized for who they are on their legal documents.
Also marking this day of visibility, a group of trans kids met at the White House with the Assistant Secretary of Health, Dr. Rachel Levine, who is transgender, to discuss the impact of anti-trans laws. The Department of Health and Human Services became the first federal agency to fly the trans pride flag. Melissa Block, NPR News.
Workers at an Amazon warehouse in Bessemer, Alabama, appear to have voted for a second time to reject a union bid, though the vote was far closer than the previous one. Workers at the plant voting 993 to 875 with some challenges. You're listening to NPR News. CIA Director William Burns has been diagnosed positive for the virus that causes COVID-19. That's according to a rare public statement from the agency. Burns, who's vaccinated and boosted, is working from home with plans to return to the office after he again tests negative. Burns met with President Biden yesterday morning but was wearing a mask and was socially distancing. With less than 2 weeks to go before the first round of the French presidential election, far-right candidate Marine Le Pen is gaining ground on front-runner President Emmanuel Macron. NPR's Eleanor Beardsley reports analysts say Le Pen comes across as less extreme today, so may have a better chance of beating Macron than when she faced him in a runoff 5 years ago.
Marine Le Pen has managed to detoxify her campaign by softening her anti-Euro, anti-NATO positions. She's talking more about the economy and purchasing power. Political scientist Dominique Régnier says today Le Pen is a credible candidate, especially among the working class.
Le programme de Marine Le Pen.
If I look at her program and her style, she's a candidate of the popular right, not the far right, he says. Régnier says Le Pen has benefited from the presence of the more radical Éric Zemmour. His platform in this presidential contest is much more ideological around French identity and a Christian Europe, he says, and those are the values of the far right. Eleanor Beardsley, NPR News, Paris.
Stocks closed sharply lower today, the downturn ending a difficult first quarter for the markets, with Russia's invasion of Ukraine and inflation pressures worrying traders. The Dow fell 550 points. The Nasdaq dropped 221 points today. I'm Jack Spear, NPR News in Washington.
There's a lot going on in the world. On It's Been a Minute, we help you make sense of the news and culture through conversation with actors, musicians, authors, and journalists. Join us every Tuesday and Friday. Listen and subscribe to It's Been a Minute from NPR.
Welcome back to Universal Truth. This is Mark Fultz, coming to you from WBHM-DB in beautiful Birmingham. And tonight we're talking to Jamie Mose, and we're having a great time talking about ghosts and ghost places. So let's get back to Jamie and what she's up to. And go ahead, Jamie, and tell me some of your favorite stories. And and then we'll talk about some of the things we were just talking about.
Okay. All right. So probably my most active place and the place I love to go is Waverly Hills. Gosh, every time I go, we see something or hear something, get some kind of activity. So the very first time I went, we were in the laundry chute, which they've renamed the death chute. Well, there's shadow people in the whole entire building, and so I was standing at about middle waist down the chute, and we could see shadow people just walking back and forth, and it was so weird because one of them reached up and put their hand on the other one's shoulder. And the friend that was with me, he was like, "Are you seeing this?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm seeing this." It was so cool. And then as we were coming up, footsteps behind us. Of course, we flip around because, of course, it's blocked at the end. There's like a metal gate thing, so there's no way anybody can get in. So, of course, we whip around with our flashlights. Nobody there. Then we got what's called the whistler. There's the reports of a whistler. He whistled right next to my head. And then there's another report on the second floor, it's all gutted now. There's really nothing in there. They're trying to redo like the first floor, but anyways, but on the second floor there used to be a bakery, and so one night, we come up the stairs and we walk on the second floor, and you could just smell fresh bread cooking so strong, and it was probably there maybe 15, 20 seconds, and then boop, it was gone. And then, of course, that's what they said. That's one of the reports there. And then me and Susan were on, I believe it was the third floor. We were just walking down the hall. We were the only ones on that whole entire floor. And so we're just kind of walking and talking in the dark. And then all of a sudden we could, heard this little tink, tink, tink. And then boom, we got hit with a rock. So something down the hall threw a rock at us. And it didn't hurt. It was just a small rock. But we were
Get
like,
your attention.
Wow. Yeah, that was so cool. And then we were using Susan's SLS one night, and there was this one little, I don't know, it was just a figure on the SLS. And so we were asking it to do stuff, would you wave at us? And it waved. And then one of the guys, he said, can you shake my hand? And it reached out and it shook his hand. So there's just so much activity there. I would go there any day of the week if if somebody would let me. But yeah, I love that place. As a matter of fact, that's one of the few places that they actually ask for me by name. So we were doing a spirit box session, and it said, "Where's Jamie?" And I'm like, "I'm right here. What do you have to say?" I was so excited that they knew my name. But and probably the second most active place I've ever been. I'm not even sure if you've heard of this place. It's a little town in eastern Oklahoma. It's called Hugo. And it is so cool. So the town, it used to be the wintering, like a lot of circuses would pick some place to winter, and several circuses wintered there in Hugo. And so there's lots of stuff about the circus there. They have an elephant sanctuary that you can go to, all kinds of stuff. Well, they have an old train station there, and it's called the Frisco Depot Museum, and it has one of the Harvey houses in there. And so, of course, the Harvey girls were like the waitresses there. They lived up on the second floor.
Up in there. Yes.
Yeah. And so, that's right. I forgot you were there. And so, anyway, so the very first time I went, it was just to tour the museum because I'd never been in there before. And so I go in there up on the second floor where the Harvey girls were, and I was using my K2 meter, just little blips here and there, nothing major. Well, then this black lady walks up onto the second floor, and I thought, uh-oh. So I put my stuff away because I thought, I don't want to scare her or anything. So I put my stuff away, and I'm standing there and I'm watching. So she comes up to the second floor, and she turns immediately to the right. And that little room there is only about 3 feet deep. And then there's like a little fence, a gate that blocks you from going in the room. And there's lots of kid stuff in there. There's an antique crib, an antique high chair, and just all kinds of toys and things. Well, anyway, so I keep standing there waiting and waiting. Well, she never comes back out. And so I thought, well, maybe I just missed her. Maybe she turned right around and went back down the stairs. So my dad has a bad knee, so he was sitting at the bottom of the stairs. So I'll go down there, and I asked him, I said, you saw the black lady that came up there, right? And he said, no, there's nobody else in here. I said, yes, there was a black lady that came up there. And he goes, no, nobody's been up there. And I was like, So then the lady that's over the museum, she comes through, and she heard me talking, and she goes, I know what you're talking about. She said, this place is haunted. And I said, really? And then I told her, so I'm a ghost hunter. So that's very interesting to me. And so anyway, and she said that the reason that she felt like the lady was on that side was because back when the train station was segregated, that was the black side. And so cool. And so then we come back and we do an investigation, and we found out her name is B, and that she, was born and grew up there in Hugo. And she said that the reason that I guess she showed herself to me was because I was with my mom, and she was looking for her mom. So we had a great conversation with her, and we've gotten tons of voices, tons of things moving. There was a bucket thrown down the stairs. There was a stool that was moved from in the Harvey house, the whole stools and the counter is kind of like, not really horseshoe, but kind of oval shaped. And so at the back, there was a stool that wasn't connected to the floor. And I remembered that because there was an antique high chair behind that. And so I reached over it to touch the chair because I'm crazy and just had to touch it. And I remember the stool was right in front of it. And so it's probably about 5:30 in the morning. We hear this god-awful noise. And at first we thought it was a growl. And I was like, and then we thought, no, it sounds more like concrete, like metal on concrete. So we start looking around. Well, when we go in the Harvey house, that stool had moved from the wall to underneath the counter. So just so much stuff happened there. So if anybody out there gets a chance to go to Hugh, Oklahoma, ask for Donna Head. She's the one that's over the museum, and it's awesome. Love, love, love that place.
It is very cool.
Yes. And so, let me think. Okay, Lizzie Borden house. We were there, of course, investigating. And I slept actually in Lizzie's bedroom, but nothing really happened in there. But we were down on the replica couch of where Andrew, Lizzie's dad, was killed. And so we're just sitting there and we're asking questions and things. And then I was asking about the stepmom. I said, "No, what was the stepmom's name?" And Susan goes, "Abby." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, Abby." We got a super clear EVP that says Abby. And so, of course, we're just freaking out. We're high-fiving. We're like, oh, my gosh, I cannot believe we actually caught on EVP, clear as a bell, Abby. And it was just awesome. I'm trying to think of some other places. Jefferson, Texas. Every building there is haunted, but they embrace it. It's so awesome when you go there. Jody Breckenridge, she does a ghost tour pretty much every Friday and Saturday night. Well, her ghost tour is so much different from others because the people there trust her so much, they give her keys to their businesses. So you actually get to go inside the businesses after they're closed, and she tells you the stories. She tells you things, that's happened and everything. So cool. And then twice a year, she has a paranormal conference that's called History, Haunts, and Legends. If you ever get to go, gotta go. It's wonderful. Several awesome speakers. Of course, they have like vendors and things. Well, then at night, it's the same way. They open up their businesses. A lot of the historic homes there open up their homes. You get to go through. You get to investigate just a little bit, tour it. They tell you all the stories. So much fun. I love going there. Let's see. What other places have I been? I just got back a couple of about 4 or 5 weeks ago. I went to the Gothic jail down in DeRidder, Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's an awesome place too. We were in the segregated section of the men's, where they house the men, and we were talking to this one spirit. We never got his name, but I always like to play music because music tends to bring out, a lot of emotions and stuff for people. And so we were talking to him, and we said, I was kind of surprised because we were in the segregated part. So I said, "Do you want to hear B.B. King?" Well, nothing really happened. And then I think we asked, "Do you want to hear Jerry Lee Lewis?" Well, then the lights just start going off on our equipment. And so we played Jerry Lee Lewis. And it's so funny because the lights were like almost getting in sync with the music. And it was just, the lights were just going the whole time that we were playing. And then we named off several other people. Of course, he wanted to hear Johnny Cash. So we played Johnny Cash. But it's so funny, though, because with most spirits that are human, they tend to run out of energy pretty quick. And so, he played with the lights. And then after a while, they started slowing down. And so we asked him, do you need a break? And, of course, he said he, had one blip, which we interpreted to be yes. So we, left the place and everything. But, oh, gosh. Such a great place to go to. It's just beautiful. I mean, the outside looks like a castle, sort of. And then inside, it's like a spiral staircase that goes up. Of course, right in the middle is where, they did a few hangings because that's where So, but anyway, awesome place. And then what was the plantation we stayed at? Oh, so sorry. Lloyd Hall. Lloyd Hall Plantation. Beautiful, beautiful place. So much history. And the lady that actually runs it, she has worked there for over 50 years.
Wow.
And so, yeah, so she does the tour of the main house of the plantation. And of course, it's like a bed and breakfast, so you can stay there in the outlying building, which you can stay in the main house too. But we stayed in one of the outlying buildings, what used to actually be the commissary. Footsteps, oh gosh, I can't even think. Lots of activity there that night too. But then in the main house, she gave us the tour, and she told us all the stories about who passed away there and all the, ghost stories that's happened. And of course, it was involved in the Civil War. Awesome, awesome place. So if you ever get to go down there, got to stay at the Lloyd Hall Plantation. It's awesome.
Okay. Have you ever been to Pensacola?
I have not. We are actually planning a trip to go to St. Augustine in November. Yeah, because I've always wanted to go to that. Yes, I've always wanted to go to the lighthouse there, so we're planning on trying to do an investigation there.
Good. Well, here, there's a beautiful, you really can't throw a rock without hitting a ghost. But there's a beautiful Victorian bed and breakfast downtown that's haunted, so there's quite a few things here to look. So if y'all ever come this way, let me know. I'll take you around and show you everything, and I'll show you how to crack the egg and get the ghost to really, really kick up. And then here pretty soon in May, I think I'm going to Texas in May for a few days. Yes. And there's a friend of ours we know. And I don't know if I'll say her name because her back house is very haunted. Teal Gray. But come, visit me while I'm out there because I can. Anytime I stay with Teal Gray, her house in the back just is crazy. I've sat there before and watched a dime float by my eye level, float past me into the other room. People coming in the door going, yoo-hoo. And when you go to see who it is, there's nobody. Hearing people eating, talking, and partying. And, so, she's got quite a place.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a lot of places in Texas. I've been, when I met Teal, and I think when I met you, we were on an investigation somewhere. I've been there a couple of times when we've gone to places and haunted places where people were hung and things like that. It was a hanging tree, and so there's a lot there. And like I was telling you, here there's just so much. Where I come from in Chattanooga, it's just I did an online tour of just 12 blocks of Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I did a 2-hour tour of just talking about 12 blocks because it's just so badly haunted. And but a beautiful city, but very badly haunted. It's a big graveyard. And then I was talking to you, I think the Corpsewood, sometime I want to take a big group there because there's Corpsewood is in Georgia, right between Summerville, Georgia, and Lafayette, Georgia. And these two Satanists who built a medieval castle. They were the hardworkingest people I've ever seen. They lived in a station wagon and built a medieval tower. It was round because they were using it for ceremony, so it was round so it could be used that way. And they built a tower there. They were real popular with all the locals, but someone thought they were rich and they killed them. And of course the castle's in ruins now, so because people burned it because it was getting too much attention, but the ruins are still there. It's private property, but they don't have no trespassing signs or anything on it, so you can go see it. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful out in the middle of nowhere. But the stories like it, people been going up the steps of the castle, the tower, and said a shaggy man appeared behind this girl and said, "Did you know the people who lived here?" And she went, "No." And he said, "I did," and disappeared.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, oh. If you go around the right time, then you see them. They were killed around Christmas time. So anytime you want to do Chattanooga or do those areas, let me know and we'll see if we can arrange something, because I can take you to Chickamauga Battlefield. If you go to it around May 1st, with the cell phone, that battlefield is one of the most active places I've ever seen, because you can't get out and wander around it at night, but you can drive through. You drive through part of it to get from Chattanooga, from Fort Oglethorpe to going towards Lafayette. You have to go through the battlefield, and I've been going through the battlefield before, and over one of the fields one time, and it all happens in May. And I saw two strikes of lightning meet over a field, and when they met, it turned into a pair of running red legs.
Wow.
And it ran across the field. And I was like, I just did too many antacids in the 60s. But I've driven through there at 2 or 3 at night, seeing lights in the trees about 30 feet up just drop out of the trees and then start walking through the field. So they said, the lights come from during the Civil War. In between the fighting, women would go out there with lanterns looking for their living people. And so you can see the lights. And there's a special place I know that if you sit, before there was the Civil War and all that, there were people there that were some kind of mound builders that the Indians said were pale skin and moon eyed. And those people disappeared. They got through a war or sickness or something. And then the Indians came and took over the land, but they would not live in that area because there were all these humanoid looking things. And I've been there before where there are ley lines in this thing that they called them an Ewa, that it was about 7 feet tall. I was going through there one time when I was moving, and I had 2 cats with me, and the cats were climbing all over my head at 3 a.m. And I said, what? And I looked in my my rearview mirror, and this tall thing was going across the road, following a ley line. And I thought, I just don't think I'm getting out of this car. So, but there's a lot of people out there you see. And one time I was doing a beltane ceremony with some friends in the field there, because it's a huge park. And we were doing singing and things like that. And you could hear these men chanting with us, singing with us.
Oh, wow.
And there wasn't anyone there, but you could hear them very loudly. They were like really happy. But it's a beautiful place to go. But it also, it's a very dangerous place. You can't go at night. You can end up being a ghost if you go there at night yourself. So, but during the daytime, it's beautiful. But boy, there's places you go and you stand and you can just feel these dozens and dozens of people just standing there looking at you, staring.
Wow.
Like, what are you doing here? So sometimes if y'all ever interested, we'll figure it out. I'll take y'all on tours like that around there. So if you ever come down to Pensacola, I will show you all the ghosts because there's, oh my gosh, there's so many. There's 2 haunted bed and breakfasts. There's a house that in the 40s it had these blue lights that would go through it. And during the war, they had blackouts because of afraid the enemies would just make an attack. And so everybody had to have their lights off. And the house would be empty, and they would see the blue lights, and they thought enemy people were, signaling enemies or something. So there's a headless woman that walks the streets and stuff like that. So she's my fave. And of course, Martha Beck, the serial killer, haunts to where she haunts from my house. I have a recording of her speaking, which I'm going to put that on YouTube very soon. So yeah, so if y'all ever want to come down here, I'll show you that. When I go to Texas, sometime we can all meet in Texas. I'll show you how to crack an egg and get some of these ghost talkers to you. And I have a friend who's given me a candlestick phone, one of the antique ones that's real tall. And I'm going to make that. I'm making that where it has a recorder in it and stuff, where it can be used to make phone calls to dead people.
Wow.
Because I don't know if you've ever had a phone call from a dead person, but I've had several. And they're very unique.
Would you mind giving them my phone number? No,
well, when I get this done, you may not want some calling on them. But I'm going to make it where I'm making devices to where I can sit down. I do a thing called the veil splitter, which I split the dimensional veil closest to us and get information. And I'm going to make it where we can have devices where we can just talk to them, because if they know how to make a phone call, they'll know how to do this. I've had several from different people. And my mother had a sister of hers who died, who she was really worried about. And her sister's phone, they had disconnected the phone. There was no phone. And then when she was really worried about her, sitting there crying over it and all this, because she had died just like a week before, and she got a phone call from her sister's phone number that didn't exist anymore.
Oh, wow.
And so, it made her be at peace, But I've had phone calls from where, you'll talk to them, you'll hear them either static or you'll hear hello, or, you'll hear something bizarre. So I want to work on devices where you can just talk to them. So, but yeah, sometime we have to get together with Teal and Kat and scare up some ghosts. Because I'm all into looking for it. And then Teal has a place you would probably love, which is she goes to a 650-year-old apartment in England. It's terribly haunted. And it's so haunted that they have Ouija boards by your bedside so you can talk to the ghost. And she was, she thought I'm going to say that. Excuse me, Teal. But they were wanting to talk to her really badly. And she was hearing them walking. The apartment is like 2 or 3 stories, and people were getting their hair brushed, people walking around the beds and stuff. So it's not bad things, just dramatic. And so she heard them walking and heard someone coming down the steps, and she said basically, okay, you want to talk to me? Talk to me. And there was this phone on the wall that wasn't plugged in. It was one of those antique ones, and it started ringing. And she said it shocked me because she wasn't amused. So I want to go to the 650-year-old apartment and talk to the people because they're very, very vocal. Because I've commuted, and so she knows a lot of great places. But that one, that's a bucket list thing for me. It's in York, and England. And so I was just having a blast at that one. I just can't wait to go. So now, we're getting not real, we got about 10 or 15 minutes. So let's start. Tell me about some of the things that you are thinking of doing, wanting to do, anything else you'd like to talk about?
Well, I was telling you, I'm going to go to San Francisco, at the end of this month, end of April. Well, I'm actually going to fly back across, and because, like I said, I live in Oklahoma, but I'm going to fly back across into St. Louis. I'm sorry, not St. Louis. Goodness, Kansas City, Missouri. And so we're going to go. I'm going to go to the Sally House again in Evanston, Kansas. So about maybe almost a year ago now, I got to go. I went on one of my little solo trips. And so I had, bought a ticket to just do like a little tour of the Sally House. Well, I didn't realize that they just give you a code to get in the door, and there's no one there. You just get to go inside by yourself. Oh my goodness. I about fell out when I found that out because I had taken some of my equipment with me. So I was the only one there. And so I went in the house and I investigated, and I got just a few things, the little girl, she set off my music box. And then it was so funny because I would be upstairs and I'd hear a bang downstairs, and then vice versa. I'd go downstairs and I'd hear something upstairs, and I'm like, okay, because I'm just chasing her back and forth. But I'm going to get to go back again to the Sally House. And then after that, we're going to go to the McIntyre Villa, and I'm just going to an event there. But I believe they're saying that's going to be the last investigation that they're going to allow there. And so, Of course, I had to go. So I've got a ticket to go do that. And then we'll be coming back across into Independence, Missouri, and we'll be investigating the Vale Mansion. And then, but when I first land the first night, I'm actually, and I've been there several times now, but the Belvoir Winery in Liberty, Missouri, it is pretty haunted. It used to be an old Oddfellows home. And so they have,
okay. Well, that's a good reason.
Yeah. And so the actual inn that you stay in used to be the school. And then right next to it is the hospital. And then it used to be the morgue, down in the bottom. And then, just several different buildings there on the property that you can go. Most of them are pretty dilapidated now, so they have a lot of signs saying you can't go in, and so you have to be really careful. But they do have events there, and so when they have the events, they allow you to go, in the buildings. But I guess I should say this on air, but I've been in there. But, I didn't get caught. So, and you're not supposed to do that. I know I was bad, but I just couldn't stand it. I had to go in there. But anyways, same thing. I heard footsteps. I heard people talking. I'm trying to think what else happened there. Another rock got thrown at me there. And then I was walking by, of course, all the buildings are just completely empty. And I heard somebody knock on the window, like on the second floor. And of course I looked up, nobody there. Let me think what else happened. I can't even think. Footsteps, I heard footsteps coming up behind me. But I get to stay there again, so I'm so excited. Oh, I got to tell you a really, really funny story, though. I was out there by myself doing my little investigating. Well, I came around one of the buildings, and there was a couple there, a man and a woman. And so I'm not thinking anything at all. I walk around the building. Well, the man stops, and he looks at me and then just bolts, takes off running, leaves his wife there. And, of course, I'm still like, whatever, I don't know what's going on. And so she takes off. And I thought, okay, well, sorry, at first I didn't get why they took off. And so I'm over there still investigating. So then I come back around behind the inn, and they're there again. He does the same thing. He squats down into a running stance and then takes off. And so I thought, oh, they're scared of me. And so I finally said, hi, how are y'all? And he goes, oh, you're real? And I was like, yes. So I scared the pants out of those people, and it was so funny. But anyways, I'm going to get to go back there. And so anyway, I just have a lot of places I'm going to check off again on going around to all the haunted places. But the last time I went, I got to go up to the Villisca, Iowa, to the Villisca Axe Murder House.
Yeah.
And I met Johnny Hauser, got to talk to him and everything for a while. Well, it was the same thing. It worked out perfect. When I got there was only 2 other girls there, and they just stayed a few minutes, then they left. And so, of course, I was talking to Johnny, telling him I'm a ghost hunter, blah, blah, blah. And so he asked me, he said, so you have your equipment with you? And I said, yeah. He goes, you know what? Go in the house, investigate all you want to until someone else comes. I stayed there an hour and a half by myself in the house. Nobody else came out. So I got to investigate. I was so excited. I didn't really get a whole lot of stuff happening there, but just to be there and just to investigate, I never in my wildest dreams thought that would happen. Anyway, loved it. So I'm going to try to work in the Villisca Axe Murder House again, because it's really not that far from Atchison. It's, I think, maybe like 2.5, maybe 3 hours. So I'm going to try. I may not be able to, but I'm hoping to go there. But, you know, I've got so many places across the United States that I'm dying to go to. And like I said, I'm hoping in November we're going to go to St. Augustine, Florida, and we're going to try to investigate the lighthouse there. Of course, I'm dying to go down to, I just lost the name of the town, Harold the Doll. Which
Robert the Doll in Key West?
Not Harold. I'm sorry, Robert. In Key West.
Robert the Doll. Yes.
Robert.
I know that one very well.
Yes, I'm dying to go there. That's a major bucket list place for me to go meet Robert.
Yeah,
of course, I'd love to meet Harold too, but that probably won't ever happen.
You have Carl Tanzler. That story about Carl Tanzler and Elena, the guy who stole the girl and turned her body into a doll and kept her for 7 years. That's in there also. So I'm sure he's haunting something.
Is it? Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a creepy story because he was in love with her. So he kept her.
Yeah.
And they made her into a doll. But when you were talking about the Oddfellows, it's very interesting because I collect Oddfellow robes and ritual robes. I've collected quite a few of them, and they're probably like 100, 108 years old. And they were very unique and unusual, but they're very spooky. Yes. Very spooky people.
Blackwell, Oklahoma one time, and we were in one of the Oddfellows. I don't know what you call it. It was a building that belonged to them. And it was so funny because they kept saying, well, there's a man that stays in this room, and he's very hateful and rude and blah, blah, blah. So I was sitting there, and I thought, okay, I said, hey, I said, I know quite a bit about y'all. I said, I've met George, which is, you know, the human skeleton that most of their places have. And he kept calling me the B word, you know. And so, and I said, well, you know, I said, I know about your place in Liberty, Missouri. I've been there. And then I was, you know, kind of explaining about the buildings and stuff. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry, we were on a spirit box. It wasn't like just him just speaking out loud. We were on the spirit box. And he goes, and he called me the B word again. He goes, you know too much. So I was like, anyway, it was so funny though. But yeah, he did not like me very much. But, oh, well.
Well, you know, back in the day, though, see, they were like the Masons, and everything was secret, and everything was secretive, and you couldn't talk about what they were doing. No one could tell what they were doing. And they had a lot of stuff that looked like a lot of frat boy kind of things that they would do. But then they did a lot of very, you know, them and the Masons did a lot of magic once you get past a certain point. And they all had skeletons and bones they used for ceremonies and all this. But I've collected some of their stuff. Some of their robes back in like 1900s, you know, 1890s were $200 or $300 a piece back in 1800s, 1890s. And they had serious ritual material made. But they weren't as freaky as the Masonic. They seemed to be a little bit gentler. But they're very interesting. So, and there's a lot of Oddfellow graveyards that are haunted. So,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, because there's a
weird.
graveyard there on the grounds of Belvoir Winery, and it's an Oddfellows cemetery. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I love to go there and just read all the names and the dates and stuff. I'm a cemetery weirdo. I do love to go visit anywhere I go if I can find, you know, an old cemetery. Me and Susan Hill are actually supposed to be working on a coffee table book about, you know, all these different cemeteries we've been and everything, but I can't quit taking pictures, so we never get settled where we can decide on which pictures we want to put in the book. But anyways, oh gosh, yeah, I'll be way out in the middle of nowhere, which my parents just hate, you know, but I carry a gun with me, you know, anywhere I go, if I'm in a car by myself, you know. And so, but yeah, I will go to way far out cemeteries. Like you have to almost have a 4x4 to get to. But I love cemeteries. I love reading the names. And you know, it's so funny because you find the craziest graves. Like there was a grave in Wheelock. It's an old Indian school. It was for girls. And anyways, there's a cemetery right beside it. Of course, there's a big church and everything, but there's a grave there that it says the man's name, and then it says a bank robber. You know, it's just right there on his grave. And then, of course, it's so sad, but, you know, you go to a lot of cemeteries that have, you know, unknown graves. They actually just, some of them will write unknown. You know, they don't know who is buried there, and then, of course, a lot of cemeteries have the baby section, you know, where you can go and see where all the babies are buried. And it's just, I love cemeteries. I'm just a freak, I guess.
I really love the antique ones where it's not all these little flat modern ones. It's these incredible monuments and you know, epitaphs and stuff. I mean, they really took a lot of effort with their old with the old cemeteries, and of course, you know, they have lots of interesting haunted places to go look at. They're great to go see. And their history, because, I mean, when you read, you know, you're reading little bits and pieces of history all over. Mm-hmm. And so they're fascinating. And
it is.
Just some of the monuments. In Chattanooga, there's one, it's a full of Celtic crosses. And Chattanooga is really, and all on top of this hill, and it is so haunted. And there's a little mausoleum, and you can go there and watch this person whoever is in it. He has a fetch that he used in his metaphysical work, apparently. And he, you'll see this little thing. It looks like a dog, except it walks on 2 feet, and it will, while you're at that mausoleum, you'll see it in your peripheral vision running around from tree to tree, stone to stone, watching you. And the person's been dead for a long time, so it's just it's staying around where he is. And it's pretty damn cool. And pretty damn scary, because it looks like a set out of a Dracula movie. And it's in Chattanooga, Tennessee, of all places. And, but it's just very interesting. So it's, I love a good old cemetery. I love a good old scary ghost. I love a good old cemetery, and I love a good old haunted place. So now we've got about 7 minutes left. So before we start to go toward the end here, I want you to tell people if they want to contact you or look at anything that you're doing, because you have books, correct?
Yeah, we have. We have. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, you can tell how they can look at your books. If you want them to contact you, or if you don't tell them. But just tell them if you got books, if you got things out there, where to watch to see your escapades that you're going on. You know, so go ahead and tell everybody all of that.
Okay. So the book we wrote is called Respectful Ghosthunting. You can get it on Amazon. Of course, I usually, have some copies with me. So if you ever see me and want one, we'll sign it for you. My Facebook, I have Facebook, and it's just Jamie Mose. So, a lot of people follow me just to see, because like I said, everybody tells me I travel like a whole lot. I don't really think I travel that much, but everybody likes to watch my little escapades and things that I do. And then on Instagram, it's Jamie MPTA. Oh gosh, and I'm also on TikTok, but I forgot my handle.
Oh,
because I don't really use TikTok all that much, but anyway, but yeah, it's probably just Jamie M something, but anyway, but if you'll, whenever you look on Instagram and all that, a lot of times it'll show you, where to go for your other things. So, but yeah, mainly on Facebook and Instagram, I do a lot. TikTok, not so much, but yeah, it's just Jamie Mose, and you can get on there. And of course, I try to be a little bit, picky as far as like who I let on there, because there's so many of the crazy people that are trying to get your bank account or whatever. So
we know.
But if you if whenever you put on, if it's showing that you're into paranormal, ghost hunting, that kind of thing, then I'll usually go ahead and accept. But if it's talking about like cryptocurrency, stuff like that, no, I won't. But yeah, and then of course I go to lots of different paranormal conferences and things like that. So, but yeah, just watch on, and I do go to HHL fairly often, and sometimes I'll go ahead and do presentations there. So, Jefferson, Texas, usually in the fall. I tend to not be able to go in the spring because I'm usually going on a trip somewhere, because in the spring it's usually close to my birthday. My birthday's in April, and I always try to go somewhere on my birthday. So, but yeah, in the fall, Jefferson, I do presentations there. So I guess that's about it.
Well, that's a lot of information, and and you sound like you're fascinating to watch. So if you want to watch her, check her out. If you are interested in watching what I do YouTube shows, ghost shows and whatever. I'm going to be doing a cooking show here coming up very soon. So you look on YouTube for Mark Fultz, Fults. You can look me up on Facebook under Chattanooga Chills, Mark Elliott Fultz. And if you in person want to find me, you can find me at Live and Let Live, Metaphysical Store, 4622 Softly Field Road in Pensacola, Florida. So, Jamie, I hope you've had a good time. I've enjoyed myself.
Oh, yes. If you get me talking about ghost stuff, I can talk all night.
Well, me too. They have to put a gag on me after a while. It's like, shut him up. But like I said, sometime we'll have to all get together, because I know Cat and Teal, and they all go and look at everything. And I'm just now catching up with everybody on the traveling kind of thing. So, last time I had to go somewhere on a thing called Spirit Airline. Don't do it. I called somebody from I said, I understand the irony of the called Spirit Airlines, please. Because they kept climbing up and it went, woo, and everybody screamed twice, and I was like, if I die, believe me, I got the irony. I got the, so I'm like, so, and that's just my opinion. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring you the name of the airline, but that's just me. I'm scared of flying, so I have to travel by train most places. But to go to Europe, I'll get on a plane. I'll get on a boat if I have to, So, but we'll have to get together and get to do something fun. And here in the next week, I will probably have a dolly put together for you.
Ooh, I'm so excited.
Oh, I know. I think it's going to be fun. And I'm excited to put it together and then get it to you and see what you think. And I want to thank Kate Hobson for turning the knobs on this show, all the electronics, because I think we are just about out of time. So, Jamie, I'm so glad you came on. And
thank you for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Oh, okay. And then when you get back from your trip, we'll have to do a follow-up here sometime and see what happens, what goes on.
Yes.
Which, man, and don't pick up a dead boyfriend, though. I don't suggest that.
If only. No.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's not what I say. Well, honey, I'm going to call it a night. So thank you for coming, and I'm going to tell all of you dark little darlings out there listening in the darkness to us, thank you for coming and listening to Universal Truths. And I'm on every Thursday, so at 7 to 9 Central. So y'all come on back now. Yeah. And we'll talk to you later, Miss Jamie.
Okay.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.